Okay, so now that you see that, so what did you think about the video?
Um, some aspects of it were not as clear as in the baseline video. For example, the fact that some of the kids are using audio voiceover platforms, but that's because they have that already installed. They're already aware of it, so that tool is just available, but it's not that evident on the video. At the same time, I don't feel like repeating it just for the sake of reporting it continuously to more land. I did it in my baseline, so it's expected that I'm aware and using that. Um, they were a little more rowdy that class, so there was more structure. I was managing the class more, so spent more time on that. Um, I do appreciate your bell ringer idea that you shared the last class. It did work. It put them into the context necessary for the class, it warmed them up, it created a working atmosphere. So much appreciated. Thank you, Melissa. Yeah, other than that, I felt like all the cultural and inclusive standards I feel like are easy to meet in this school because it's designed this way. The region is indicative of the necessity. So school has over 90 or 85 this year nationalities. So in one class I have Emirati kids, Korean, Japanese kids, Italian kids, Indian kids. So whether I like it or not, whether I want it or not, I must be very culturally aware. And I always, whether it's for a report for Moreland or no, incorporate activities that are um, reducing the proximity, no, sorry, decreasing the proximity between cultures.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. I like the way you worded that. Decreasing the proximity between cultures. That's a good one. But yeah, I like that. So I thought it was a really good video. And I'll just kind of go over the rubric and then I'll kind of talk about the narrative that I spoke in the feedback section. So I mentioned in the feedback section, and I'm sure Jenny probably mentioned this to you as well. But of course, starting out, you're going to see more proficients and basics, and then you're going to. It might have been Katina that told you, but you'll jump up into the outstanding as time goes on. So that's kind of why, just because it's like, we're just first seeing it and we're watching you grow from where you started. So, but I did see a lot of B standards. So, in the activities that you plan for your students, they were developmentally appropriate. It was right there on their level, which was good. And I thought, especially the bell ringer, that was a really engaging one. Like you had a really good hook because that picture was interesting, and the students could, get into that and really kind of, oh, that's interesting, so that was a really, really good idea for that bell ringer. So I liked how you had the annotation, like how the students would be receiving like their modifications and accommodations. So that way, like you said, even though, it wasn't obvious because it was already loaded and they were already, working on it, you still noted it. So that was good. That was a good way to show it. And so also the students, it's a safe space. It's a safe environment. They're valued, they're respected. So that's definitely evident. And same, cultures, like you said, you're doing that already because you have to. So that's why, that definitely was not at all basic and you already are proficient at that. So, so this one is only because I don't get to see the family aspect of it. And I don't know if that's something you're allowed to do, but so that's why it's just basic because I didn't see the family. That one little word there makes a difference because we do see that, you collaborate with the students and there's positive, interaction, all that's all solid, but then they add the families in. And so I'm like, oh, we most of the time we don't see that because we're watching you teach in the classroom. So that makes it kind of tough. But
So how
and then
do you mind if I ask a question or should I wait for later?
Oh, go ahead and ask. You're good.
So it's just the end of September. Well, today's 2nd of October, but the video. So I'm 1 month in. I have not contacted parents yet. However, if I were, I deal with a lot of data collected from parents because this school has really developed individual learning plan system and special needs teachers. So a lot of information is gathered about many students and it's uploaded in the system. And as a teacher, I can see that without having to contact parents. But massive amounts of work have been done, communication with therapists and so forth. So how do I meet this standard? How do
I
I
would,
demonstrate?
yeah, demonstrate it. I would just note that in your, um, so you base your lesson plans off of that, right? I'm guessing off of that, some of that data.
Very much so. And when you look at my case study, you'll see I modified texts, length of texts, complexity of texts. I write glossary handouts to support some students. I'm more assisting them more often and that's checking in on them more often. Like there is a bunch of things going on. And a lot of it is coming from their families, a lot of this data. However, it was not me who interacted with them to put it all together.
Yeah, well, I would say, I mean, if they're providing you with data and you're responding, I mean, that's collaborating with them. And I would just note that like in your lesson plan, like where you have like the modifications, you can say like this is based on data given to me from parents, provided by parents. And then because this will come up again on the final evaluation.
Mhm.
And then of course, we'll be able to say, yeah, we saw it in the lesson plan. So we can, that'll bump you into, outstanding. So that's what I would do. It's a hard one. A lot of people struggle with it because they're like, we're videoing the classroom, we don't really record parents. And so I'm just like, however you can put it in either your reflection or your lesson plan, that's going to help meet that standard. So that's what I would do.
Well, also my first summative is coming beginning this week. Uh, and I assume there would be a few kids who will not pass or barely pass. So then I will most likely be communicating with parents to involve them. And then should I just scan or screenshot those emails and insert them in my video? Just like, boom, a small glimpse
Yeah,
into. Uh huh.
you could. Somebody did that actually. I have a baseline video example where somebody did that. They like had student work and then they actually had like like communication with parents. So yeah, I would yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So that's an option too. Perfect.
Yeah, that is an option. Yeah, that's a good idea. And I wasn't sure like if you'd be able to do that, but that would definitely be neat to be able to actually see that. So it's a good idea.
Or maybe the small formative assignment is to interview a parent on the topic. Yeah, there are
Oh
many
yeah.
ways. If you make it an objective, there are many ways to meet that.
There are, and that would be neat to like tie, bridge the gap between like home and school and get the parents involved in the classroom in a way. I like
Okay,
that.
perfect. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. All right. So yeah, I mean, your classroom, the students are collaborating, they're able to take responsibility, they're making choices. So that I definitely saw that they were doing that. They were in those groups working. Um, so I really liked that. And then here, you do have great norms, like it's clear you were managing that classroom. It you were on there. So um the timing, your pacing is really good. You use the time wisely. You've got those a lot of technology. So I was like, that's outstanding right there. Like you have a lot of that already at the beginning, the different um modifications the students are using that are technology based. So yeah, it was a really good lesson. So here, um, I just, went through the lesson. I don't know if you got a chance to listen to it. Um, But I went through the lesson and just talked about, how I love that bell ringer, and how I saw evidence of the different standards. I saw, and I like the grouping. I mentioned the groupings because it's not only a good way for them to collaborate, but it's differentiation because you had the heterogeneous groups. So they were able to kind of, like, if you had a learner who's struggling a little bit, they could be supported by another student, which sometimes, um, it's almost better than us supporting them.
Yeah, that's
So,
exactly what I did. That's exactly what I did. If you remember in the video at the very beginning of the class, I shuffle them a little bit and tell them where to sit. Because the student who is in my case study, put him together with a Korean girl and an Emirati girl. Korean girl is incredibly bright, but she is an ESL student. And in our school, we call it a BML. So she has to translate everything from Korean. She has, the assistive technology going on. But she understands, as soon as she gets over the language barrier, she understands everything and does perform A+. However, she understands the guy with the special needs as well because their pace is somehow equal. They take their time for different reasons, but she supports him so well and he feels very comfortable because no one is rushing him. So
oh,
that was the grouping that I thought, this you're just guys are a perfect match. You will be sitting together. So yeah, I agree, and this is something that only here during the debrief will. Well, I can make a note of it when it comes to groupings, but yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I didn't even know, like, that was how I know. I saw, because I was able to access your lesson plan. And so I looked, and I was like, oh, that's perfect. Because, I saw the groupings and I was like, yeah, I was like, oh yeah, okay, that works well. It's a heterogeneous grouping. And that I knew, I was like, okay, then there's different levels in these groups. So, but I like that, how you had them together like that. That was neat. Um,
Thank you, thank you. And I also was rewatching this video afterwards, and I was thinking like, I'm standing there, this blonde girl, to tell you the truth, and there are like 25 grown Emirati men sitting there doing what I'm telling them to do. I'm like, damn, that works somehow, one way or another, but that does. So that was nice also to see that I have that rapport that is
yeah,
working. Yeah.
it's working. Yeah. I mean, they respect you. You can totally tell. Like, even though they were a little more, because I think they're feeling comfortable. That's why they were kind of more chatty. But you can tell they respect you overall. So that's awesome. I mean, they're listening, they're doing the work. I mean, yeah, you've got great classroom management skills.
Thank you.
So
Thank
that's
you.
great. Yeah, that's something with the new school I know a lot of people struggle with, but you don't seem to have any problem. It's like you're in there and they're on it. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm lucky. I appreciate it, Melis. All right. Well, I have several notes made. I appreciate